first of all, thank you for being here and thank you for actually subscribing to this channel. Um, this is one of the most important sections that we'll talk about. It's basically about nutrition and your diet. Um, Again, this is one of the most important sections that you'll go through, and that's the first thing that you should get started on. I think the main point, and this is the most important thing that you need to think about, is the fact that when you sign up for one of the amazing coaches that you see online or on Instagram, this is the first thing that they work on. If a coach just trains you in the gym, most of the cases, and 95% of the cases, end up in failure because the individual has not fixed their nutritional intake. All of the coaches, almost 98%, that have a high success rate with their clients, basically start with this, and we'll show you examples of that. The whole idea of the system is completely unrestricted, so you can eat the foods you love, you can eat the foods that you've always been told are bad for you, and you can get the results that you actually want when it comes to losing body fat and losing weight. The caveat here is, yes, you can eat whatever you want, but at the same point, we turn around and we recommend to have healthy options throughout the day that's going to help you with not just weight loss, but it's also going to help you with having a more holistic life. But again, you can choose to have different choices, and you still will lose weight. Now, the main thing to understand is, how is fat created? So what most people don't understand or have read in passing online or somewhere is the fact that they think that fat is created mysteriously from specific foods. It's not. Fat is actually created when you have a surplus of energy. And the other thing that people don't realize, even if you stay asleep and you don't even get up, your body requires calories to turn around that energy for you to exist. And that's why you'll hear people talking about BMR or basal metabolic rate. Now, that's what you need to sustain life. The next thing is breaking down of those foods needs to happen as well. Those specific foods get broken down by your body and they require energy as well. And then the last part, which is a different section, is your energy expenditure, which comes from activities, comes from doing exercise, comes from, walking around, the, famous steps that people talk about, right? So that's how fat is created. Fat is created when you consume more than your body needs. Now, that's a simple premise, but the reality is that what people don't realize is the biggest part of your energy and expenditure is actually the resting energy. So what do you need for you to sustain life? And you can see here, it's between 70 to 80%, and in some cases, or some people, it's actually 90% of their energy expenditure. So I think what's important to understand there is that that's the base of everything that we do, okay? Now, this system is not new. This has been used for the last 50, 60, 70 years by bodybuilders. Obviously, it was much more complicated when they had to do it. There was not, this, a great amount of apps that do the calculations for you. There were not huge databases when it came to foods. So it was a lot harder. I remember even myself 20 years ago, I had to actually go and look at books to see how many calories are actually in each type of food. Now, what's great is with all the different apps and a lot of them that are free, you can actually turn around and do this pretty simply, which is you can calculate what your energy expenditure should be for your age, your weight, your height, and in some cases, the more complex ones, your body composition, but you don't even need that. And the main point here is once you master this part, Literally, this is like a superpower, guys. I mean, once you master this, and I can tell you from personal experience and looking at all of the interviews that we've done, you can literally lose weight, gain muscle, get leaner. You can do all of those things while you're in control of it, let's say. And it's seriously impressive. You see bodybuilders doing it all the time, and we interviewed a lot of bodybuilders, and we worked with a lot of bodybuilders. And so how they did the nutrition, and they have it down to a science. They're able to lose body fat so quickly, and they're basically on the cutting edge of basically nutrition and how you turn around and lose body fat. So again, back to the basics. Like we said, you have calories in, that's what you eat, that's what you drink. You have calories out, which is your daily activity, exercise, and your resting metabolism. Okay? Now, in this section, we focus on how do you look at your resting metabolism and how do you complement that with your nutritional intake, right? So, I mean, if you look at it, you hear these numbers. I mean, many other companies have, tried to use this as, their guiding star is, Weight Watchers, whatever, and try to oversimplify it. But I think now with, so much technology out there, it's much easier to do. And I think, in my case, 2-3 years ago, I was on 1,500 calories, which was too low, but I was trying to lose weight very quickly. Today I'm on over 2,000 calories and I still don't gain weight. So again, this is just another example. All of this stuff, you can find them online, you can Google search them. This gives you a very good example. What you see in the red is actually what you use up during the day. You wake up, you go to work, you have 1 hour of training, and then you go back to sleep. That requires 3,000 calories. At the same time, you have your breakfast, your lunch. Some people, have a pre-workout meal, and then you have dinner, right? So all of that has to balance each other out. And this is why it's very important that you manage this part like it's a budget, okay? And then we go back to what we said before, which is saying, okay, the resting energy is actually the biggest one. So that's where we want to be able to calculate how much do we need per individual per day, right? So this is just an example of, we signed up with many coaches. We tried to look at the most successful ones with their clients, and this is what they give you. They turn around, they take your weight, your height, your body fat percentage. These are all assumptions, obviously, that they made based on, pictures that we sent them or, stuff that we discussed with them. And then they turn around, they calculate your calories. And you can see, they've done it by day, they can break it down into fat, protein, carbohydrates, fine, that's one way of doing it. And then what they do, which, this is why I sometimes say, it's the babysitting approach. Then they tell you actually exactly what to eat. So they tell you, you should be eating egg whites and eggs and quinoa for breakfast. And, you can see here grilled asparagus. So, I mean, all of these things are things that you can do for yourself. And in fact, once you do it for yourself, like we said in the beginning, is you become the master of your own universe. And just so that you know, actually all diets are trying to do the same thing. Whether it's, a diet that's based on taking one macronutrient, if it's a diet based on, telling you that you should have, even if we go back to stuff when I was growing up, like the Atkins diet, what they're trying to do is basically, in Atkins taste, lots of protein, lots of fats, you're full for, a good portion of the day because of the fats and the protein, that you actually consume less overall. Okay, it doesn't mean that diet is more effective. It just means that they manage to get you to a caloric deficit. The problem with most diets is because they are restricted and they're not individualized, people turn around and, 95, I mean, statistically 95% will gain back the weight and more by doing such a restricted diet, right? So it's basically the same game that everybody is trying to play. Now, I think the amazing part that I told you about is that you can track everything via apps. I will post the different apps you can use. I personally like MyNet Diary. It's a very simple interface. It's the free version that I use. I've also bought the premium version just to check out what it's like, but I don't see any reason to buy the premium version. They have a huge database of foods that keeps growing because it's user generated, right? Now the other possibility which other people do when we checked is people use spreadsheets, okay? I don't recommend it because it's very tedious, even though sometimes in the app you might not find what you're looking for, but it's better to go for a similar item or a similar food group, and then you just turn around and estimate your caloric intake, right? Spreadsheets are good if you want to turn around and plan out your meals. We found that a lot of people that were also super successful in weight loss with their clients, they used to track their clients through a Excel, or tell the client to use an Excel where they actually prepare the day. You guys can do that as well, but you can do it in the app. I mean, for a while, a couple of years ago, I was turning around, and before the day starts, or even before the week starts, I would be inputting everything that I plan to eat, and then I would just change it on the go. It depends what type of person you are. I mean, there's some people that really like to plan in advance, and there's some people that don't. So I wouldn't really worry about that. Let's go now and actually do a demo of the app itself, and I'll take you through the different functionalities, and then we can continue going through the information that I have for you in this podcast. So let's get started with the application. Basically, this is the dashboard. It's called MyNet Diary. You can find it on the iOS store. The starting point for you is actually you're going to turn around and create a profile that's, this personal information that you can see here. With the personal information, you're going to put your date of birth, your activity level, your age, your height, and your weight. Those are the most important things. You can actually log your measurements and before and after pictures. Personally, I don't do it. It doesn't actually make a difference on your tracking or what the app functionality does. Some people like to do it because they want to see the progress, and that's absolutely fine as well. Once you finish that, then the main point is if you go back to your dashboard, you'll see some data in here. But the main thing is that you go to Coach. Some of you that use the app, there used to be a thing called My Plan at the bottom of it. That's not there anymore. You actually need to go to Coach. You click on that, you click on My Plan, and we can do this one just, as a mock-up. So 70 kgs, you can change it to pounds if you want. And I want to be 65. And then I turn around and you see what just happened there. So when I turn around and I put the date, it actually has a threshold where you can only lose 1 kilo per week. I think this is actually really good because what many people do, they go on a super low caloric intake per day. First of all, it's unhealthy. Second of all, it's not sustainable. So even if I turn around and I try to change it, so you can see I put it to June, it doesn't allow me to. If I try to change the date and go to past July 15th, it actually pushes me back, right? So I think this is actually good. Let's save that and we just go back. So you go back here, you get to see this nice chart. Wants to lose 5 kilos in 35 days, and then it turns around and it does it on your dashboard. Okay, 1,200 calorie budget, super extreme. I think it's not required to go to that level. What you want to do is probably lose half a kilo or 1 pound per week. It's more sustainable and it allows you to adjust along the way. So, I mean, let's go back to my normal stuff. I'm actually not losing weight anymore. I'm actually on my maintenance. So I basically just try to maintain my weight. In fact, I try to gain weight these days. So it turns around, it just should give me around, 2,200 calories. I basically log all my foods into breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks. I don't do the water personally, and the exercise and the steps comes from your health app, which is great as well. So it's basically linked. For example, my weight comes directly from my weight scale. It goes into the health app, and then it comes into the app here, which I personally think is super convenient. So one of the things that you want to avoid, and I personally avoid it, and most of the trainers that we saw were successful with their clients, basically they switch off this functionality depending on which app they're using. Add exercise to caloric budget. If you turn that on, what it does is it basically, when it's toggled on, it increases your budget by the amount you worked out. I personally don't do it, and I wouldn't advise you to do it because, I'll explain it in a different video about how, exercise tracking is giving you a ballpark figure. I personally would keep that as an upside, keep that functionality off, just switch it off from here, and just focus on the number you're getting at the top and track based on that. The same thing for steps. There's some people that turn on the functionality of if you go over a certain threshold of steps, you actually get a higher budget. I wouldn't do that as well, because if you turn around, you do more steps one day, that's great. You're just gonna lose more body fat. Now, when you're tracking your foods, what's really cool about the app is that it actually knows what you've logged previously. So you can see I can swipe to turn around and have yesterday's dinner, okay? I can turn around and delete it. You can actually copy stuff. So if you click on select here, you can actually copy it or move it to another meal. So you can go like that and you can move it into another meal, which I think is actually pretty convenient as well. If I just go here and delete all of these ones, what I find also super cool is, this is a user-generated database. So people are submitting products, foods, and different items into the database. The company that's behind this actually validates it and puts it into a huge database. So, I mean, what's cool is if you click on this barcode here, and I have this example of so it just takes the barcode and it has that for many items. I mean, most items from the US, from the UK, most international items that are coming from companies like Nestle, Kraft, and whatever, you'll find it there. And then you just turn around and you put in your servings, either cups, how many grams you had, and it actually remembers. You see the 50 grams here is actually highlighted in blue. It remembers what I did previously. So I can put 50 grams, log, and then it logs that food in, right? And then you can always copy and edit food entries, save as a meal. It's actually it's a pretty nice way of tracking your stuff. I know a lot of people that like MyFitnessPal. I found this one to be much simpler. It's free, you don't need to pay any subscription, and it's easy to manage. I think, when we talk about more advanced users and more advanced people, we'd potentially look at the premium version to track macros like carbs, proteins, and fats. But it's not even needed at this stage. And what's cool is that you can actually see at the bottom the different days how you're doing. So for example, you can see here, it shows it in red where, I was very close to my caloric budget, right? You can also see here, because I had a different budget, I was too low, based on what I logged. I mean, obviously I ate more than that. So I think it's super easy to use once you get used to it. The main point is track everything you consume, please guys. I mean, that is the holy grail of getting it right. Once you track what you have,
When you see the apple is red, you say, okay, I'm not doing that well. You'll get a notification when you track everything on this My Analysis right here. And sometimes it will say to you, you're not going to lose weight fast enough. And it will tell you you're consuming too much calories based on your plan, right? So I think, just be as truthful with yourself as possible, because that's how you can make the fine-tune adjustments. I really fine-tune. I mean, now, like I said, I'm trying to turn around and I'm trying to gain weight. So I'm on maintenance and gaining weight. I have to say it's not easy because, you have to eat quite frequently. But I think this is the way that you not only will understand what are you really taking in, but you'll also start to understand which foods are actually causing you the most weight gain, that are really hypercaloric, too many calories, too dense on the calories. And we'll talk about that later in the podcast. But I think that's the main objective of using this app. I used it for 6 months till I got like a grasp of, okay, these are the foods that actually cause me to be overweight or cause me to gain weight. And when I talk about gaining weight, it's really gaining fat. You'll gain water, and you retain water from day to day. But I'm talking about overall what causes you to actually increase your body fat. So that's basically the app. I mean, play around with it as much as possible. Reach out if you have any questions specifically on the app. We'll do a deep dive on different applications, fitness trackers, weight scales, and all of this stuff on a different podcast. But this for today, for especially newbies that are getting started with tracking, this is very important. Track everything that you're consuming, and I guarantee you this will pay off.
So now let's get back to that. You've seen the application, how it works and things like that. You'll be able to play around with it and start tracking. I would suggest just start tracking straight away, and seeing, I mean, what many of the coaches that we've seen do, they turn around and let people submit a food diary. And that's probably how this app came up. Is the most successful coaches, people like Jeff Cavalier for Athlean-X and those ones that you see on YouTube, what they actually do is they turn around and they tell people, submit me 3 days of what you're eating today. And that's when people realize that it's a hell of a lot of food, a hell of a lot of calories. And you'll be amazed how much you can actually consume when you're not realizing how much these foods actually have in them, right? It doesn't also help that the marketing is totally crap from food companies and FMCG companies just playing around and putting different labels, different taglines of what's healthy, what's organic, what's low glycemic index or keto or whatever it is. So just start straight away, and this will give you a very good base to understand what's actually increasing your caloric intake. So back to the basics. I mean, this is what I said when I showed you the app demo. I mean, you should actually look at about a half a kilo a week of fat. It's simple math. I mean, half a kilo is about 3,500 calories. You're going to lose that over time, so you just have to make sure that you're in that deficit. The app is great because it does it for you. If you want to lose faster, you can lose faster, but I just suggest do it with caution. I tried to do it several times. I've seen people try to do it. You do lose the weight, but then you need to think about what you're going to do, because it becomes very restrictive in terms of calories. So I think that's the basics when it comes to caloric intake. The other point is that a lot of people think, okay, so I'm doing these calories per week, per day, and then on the weekend I can just turn around and go to the movies, have an extra large super duper popcorn, sweet and salted, buttered, whatever, nachos. All of those things add up. And I'm not saying not to eat those things. You should eat those things, but you need to account for them, because it's not just the day that matters, it's the week that matters. A lot of people that you turn around and say, okay, I'm not losing, what you find out when you look at their tracking logs is that during the weekend, when they believe they have a cheat day or they want to just let their hair down, they turn around and they ruin the whole week. And remember, your body can take in food, it can store it as glycogen in your muscle, and then it can store it as fat. So the week does matter as well. So if you do the day, the week, the month is going to be fine as well, right? So I think the main thing is if you're going to do something like that, and I've just made up this example, for example, on a Monday you went over your caloric budget, fine, take it down from the next 2 days, take it down from the next day in the second example, um, you know, and you see it in the red line. The reality is when you turn around and you say, okay, it's Friday, I'm gonna have drinks, I'm gonna eat with my friends, whatever. Saturday, I'm a bit hungover, I'm gonna eat a little bit more. Sunday is a lazy day, I'm watching TV. And then you see that the caloric budget actually is not anymore 1700 on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. No, it's actually become 2300 with what you've done in those 3 days. So that's why I would say always budget for what you're gonna do. What I used to do when I was really on trying to lose body fat and get really shred down is I used to actually plan those things. I'm generally very structured when it comes to those things. So I would plan and say, okay, I know I'm going out for dinner. I know I'm going to have drinks. Let me put that into the app. Let's see how far I can go and what I have to do the next day, right? And again, you can find lots of this stuff online. You can see it on Instagram, people posting infographics. But those infographics, those pictures don't actually tell you the how. The how is very important here, and this is why we're doing this as a podcast, is we're trying to explain to you, if you do something, then go back and try to balance that out, and it's not a big deal. So you went over to a friend's house and you overate, or you had pizza or whatever it is. Either you budget for that from the day or you budget that from the week, and you're gonna get back on track. It's not even you're not even off track, to tell you the truth. You're just turning around and correcting to make sure that you stay within your budget. So these are other examples. Again, I found these all online. That's the reality of what people do. They turn around, they have a great week, and then they just turn around and go nuts on the weekend. And by the way, many of these things can be budgeted. I mean, turning around and going and having an ice cream on the weekend with your kids or with a friend or whatever, that can be budgeted. I mean, I can tell you today, and I'm not on a super high calorie intake. I do about 1,800 to 2,000 depending on the day. I mean, I have ice cream, I have pasta, I have whatever, I have pizza. It's not something that changes your life dramatically. I think what changes your life dramatically is the fact that you restrict yourself from those foods and then you binge eat to make up for all the restrictions that you've done to yourself, right? So this is another example. This is a weekday dieter. You see a lot of these people, especially the people that are working. So during the work week, they work in an office, they order their food, or they go down and eat with people from the office, and then on the weekend they go completely nuts. Again, the weekly average just goes up. It's the same example. This is a positive example of what you can do, which is, you can turn around and you can, calorie cycle for fat loss, which is exactly the same example, which is to say, okay, there's some days where you're going to be lower, some days where you're going to be higher, but the average is exactly the same. There's another one at the bottom, which is the weekend warrior deficit, which is the person has said, okay, it's a choice. I'm going to do 4 days a week, 1,200, on the weekend, 1,900. It works for them. If that's what you find sustainable, then please go ahead and do that, because that's going to actually work for you. I personally find that I'm happy with a single budget all the way through, because I just obsess about, gaining body fat. So another thing to address, I mean, there's a lot of people, I mean, even my parents to a certain degree, believe that you can have a cheat day. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. There's a concept of cheat meals. You see The Rock on Instagram and on social media posting his cheat meals every week. I was recently doing not a program, but a way that I was doing my tracking is when the lockdown happened, I was actually doing intermittent fasting during the day. I was also some days eating fruit during the day, which is very low in calories. And then I was having a huge meal at nighttime, 3 or 4 burgers, French fries, homemade pizza, whatever it was. It depends what works for you. There's a lot of people that like to have that indulgence meal. You can have that every day if you want. Obviously, I would recommend, home cooked food, you know what's in it and things like that. But, it's really your choice. But as long as you track it and say, okay, I have a budget of 1,500, 1,700, 2,000, 2,500, whatever it is. The only caveat I would say on this one is be careful with people that have acid reflux. I suffer from it because you end up in that meal just literally overeating on a volume basis, and you're probably going to have a pretty rough night. But again, cheat meals, budget for them. If you want to do them once a week, twice a week, you want to do them every day, that's really up to you. I mean, as long as you stay within the budget, the science is on your side, basically. And this is not a cheat meal. So, I mean, whoever tells me that this is a cheat meal is actually nuts. And, I'm putting it as a joke, but, when I was working in a corporation for many years, I mean, there were guys in the office, and these guys were consistently gaining weight while I was shedding off body fat. And they say, oh, I don't know how you do it. So I turned around and I said, as part of, building this program and this podcast, I said, okay, let me try to understand what these people do. These people actually consume 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day. It is completely insane when you sit down with them. The breakfast, the lunch, the dinner. I mean, there was one guy, I mean, again, the guy was not huge. He wasn't like 300 pounds. But I mean, he was definitely overweight for his frame. He was consuming 2,000 calories per meal. And then sometimes he would consume 2,000 calories, skip lunch, and then have another 3,000 calories at nighttime, which is even worse. So, I mean, I think there has to be an idea of volume and content. We'll talk later about hypercaloric foods, but most of these people indulge a little bit too much. You can enjoy a donut, you can enjoy, a Cinnabon, whatever, pizza, whatever. It all comes out of your budget. It's literally your choice of which one you pick. But then turning around and having a volume that equates to something like 4,000 or 5,000 calories, there's very few people that will be able to turn around and correct that in the coming days, or even if they're a huge guy, And one thing is for sure, I mean, you've seen it probably in these movies, Fed Up, What the Health, and, this other vegan, The Game Changers, I don't remember which one it was, but they're talking about the fact that you cannot outwork a bad diet. You simply can't. This guy that I had with me in the office, you cannot work out 4,000 to 5,000 calories. That's days on a treadmill, You just simply can't. I mean, I was, at some point, when I was very competitive in terms of my sports, I had to do, 1.5 to 2 hours of high intensity workout. That's 1,000 calories. So you're never going to work this off. And that's why you see that obesity has become such a big issue, because people are just eating these type of meals throughout the day, or snacks throughout the day, that cannot be compensated. And that's why it's better to control your calorie intake, not restrict yourself from the foods you like, and actually make a difference on your weight. So, I mean, believe it or not, if you start to make the choices, and I can tell you this and I promise you this, is that if you start to make the right choices, it's a hell of a lot of food. I mean, these are just examples that I found online. I mean, if you look at 1,000 calories, which most people have double that to take per day, um, it's a lot of food. I mean, and that's why vegan diets got quite a big well, let's say following, or people start to think that it was the solution, because vegetables and fruits are fundamentally low in calories. Excuse me. So I mean, yeah, it can be a low calorie diet, and you can lose weight on a vegan diet. But keep in mind, French fries are vegan too. Bread is also vegan, but if you eat too much of it, so if you get the right choices, and what you'll realize throughout this podcast, especially on nutrition, and we'll talk about it in many episodes to come, is that most foods that are nutrient dense, so super good for your body, full of vitamins and minerals, like strawberries, like fruits, like vegetables, are actually very low in calories. And you'll see that in the coming parts of this episode. So I mean, I like these ones. I found these also on Instagram. I mean, this is somebody that obviously prepares their meals beforehand, but they're preparing their week's food. And you can see here, I mean, 1,700 calories. It's a lot of food. And okay, you might think that they're extreme choices, low-fat yogurt, whatever, but she's also having chocolate chip waffles every day. She's also having rice, brown rice, and quinoa or whatever. So I mean, I think you can have really good choices that actually turn around and increase the volume of food that you have per day, and you're less hungry. Keep in mind, if you have the extreme foods which are high on calories, most of the time those foods, with the exception of the natural foods like nuts and eggs and whatever, which are quite high on calories, most of those processed foods will actually make you hungrier. Eating a donut, one will not be enough, So again, I'm not saying to don't do those things, indulge, enjoy, whatever, just stay within your budget, but you can have a lot more volume of food if you actually just make different choices when it comes to your food. I think the main thing that I learned, and I told you I got a hang of it after 6 months, the main thing that I learned was this concept, and I don't know why. I never saw these infographics on Instagram at the time, but while I was tracking in the app, I just turned around and this 100 grams per whatever I was eating started to stick out to me. And once you start, this clicks in your mind, it becomes, first of all, easier to track, it becomes easier when you're going out for a meal, and it becomes easier to make choices. And the simple way to think of it, usually meats, and I'll give you the examples here, usually meats are 1 to 1.5 to 2 ratio, right? So 100 grams of meat will be between 100 calories, which you see kangaroo meat. I'm not sure who's going to have kangaroo meat, but fine. I think, turkey breast, 100 calories. But then the maximum it goes to is about 200, 250, which is, kind of the ribeye, right? So you know that meat is around there, okay? And then you have other examples on the side. You can see these, you just look at them on Instagram or Google search them, you can find them as well. Fish is a similar one as well. Some are very low, like, prawns are, only 62 calories per 100 grams, going up to salmon, which is 208, which is great. I find this range of, to get a protein, these are very efficient proteins for your body, 1 to 2 ratio, so 100 grams to 200 calories is absolutely fine, right? Then if you look at fruits, this is where I think it's amazing. And when I discovered this actually really changed the way I was eating. And all my life, I was not a fruit and vegetable eater. I had major issues when it came to eating. I was kind of, fried chicken and French fries kind of guy. for most of my life, or a curry and rice or whatever it is, right? And when I realized that fruits actually per 100 grams are 3 times lower in most cases. For example, look at strawberries, which I personally love berries. I mean, if you look at strawberries, it's actually, if you eat 100 grams of volume, which is a pretty nice bowl of strawberries, it's actually only 30 calories. So you can actually enjoy these foods, and I'll explain later how this can be part of one of your daily hacks. Because I'm somebody that never liked fruits. I never liked fruits and vegetables. But I guarantee you, if you look through all the range of fruits and vegetables, which are just not just in this picture, what's available to you, you'll find something you like, and that's great, So I think the only exception is dates, which are super sugary, but that's a different discussion. So, but I mean, even if you look at olives, which is considered a fruit as well, it's 100 grams equal 138 calories, right? Vegetables are even worse. So vegetables are really low on calories. At the same time, quite an effort to digest them for our body. Like, for example, when you eat lettuce, it takes more calories to actually digest it than the calories that are in the lettuce. But these are just some examples. Again, you'll play around with the app, you'll see the stuff. But you can see, I mean, even carrots, where sometimes people say to you, yeah, but carrots have sugar in them. Yeah, they have sugar in them, but it's 41 calories per 100 gram. It's really low. Then one of my favorites, which is cheese. So, I mean, you have a lot of people that are cheese lovers. I lived for quite some time in Europe and went through Switzerland and places like that where, eating cheese is almost a sport. In the end, cheese is hypercaloric. It's naturally hypercaloric because you have to think about what cheese is. Cheese is actually a way of processing the fat from milk. Now, I'll talk later about some different choices that you can have when it comes to cheese. But the main thing is that you need to budget for it, and turning around and just having, little bits of cheese adds up very, very, very quickly. And they are heavy, the 100 grams is not like it's a huge piece, let's say. Milk is something similar, and we'll come back to this one. I think it's super important that you understand also milk. You can find these online. I mean, milk, there's different types. I mean, I don't do almond milk. I don't do coconut milk. I don't like the way they taste. I like skimmed and low fat. I like them more than the full fat. I feel like the full fat smells a bit weird. And, the calories are pretty decent, right? For 200 ml. I mean, that's bigger than your latte, let's say. Then another thing is, I mean, this is also where, I'm trying during the podcast to get people to get away from the myths. This took me years to understand, For example, I was, under the impression potatoes were bad for you. I don't know why, but growing up, you would hear that potatoes are bad for you. Potatoes are, it's a starchy carb, it's not good for you. I mean, look at it, first of all, potato is very good for you. It's very nutritious. At the same time, a white potato has only 93 calories, and this is per 100 grams. So it's even less than the grams that we're talking about. I mean, quinoa, which, don't get me wrong, I love quinoa, and I think it's a great food to eat, is 4 times that. Uncooked, obviously. Cooked is a different discussion. But I think once you start to know these things, you won't go into the carbs are bad for you discussion. Because I can tell you, during the week, I have a couple of plates of lasagna per sit down. I have a couple of plates of, spaghetti. It doesn't actually matter as long as you're turning around and budgeting for it. So I think that's the main thing, is just try to stay away from what you've been preconditioned to believe in, you know, carbs are bad for you, pasta is bad for you, brown pasta is better for you. I mean, you look at the difference between brown pasta and white pasta. Not really that much. Okay? Again, what you need to understand, and that's why it's in our intro video, the fitness industry plus the non-nutrition, the food industry has created a fucking mess out of everything. You know, they've turned around and they've just used words left and right, where they turn around and explain to people that you know, brown pasta is better or brown bread is better. It's probably better in terms of nutrients, but it has nothing to do with weight loss and weight gain. That's for sure. Okay? And again, going back to potatoes, I mean, do potatoes make you fat? I mean, you look at this example, and it just shows you, I mean, yes, if you turn around and get McDonald's French fries, yes, per 100 grams, it's 312 calories. It's huge, okay? Hash browns as well, potato chips, you know, normal, what British called crisps or potato chips, you know? So I think there's also a lot to do here. For example, I'll give you my example. I love French fries. So what do? I turn around and I get French fries, you know, the frozen ones that you get, and there's some really great brands that do amazing ones. Per 100 grams is 175, okay? And I turn around and I put it in the air fryer. So I know that the potato is actually supposed to be 93 per 100 grams. I'm doubling it, but I'm not going to the 300 grams. So I actually get to enjoy French fries, and the same thing for the family. But you can see that in the end, it really depends how a certain food is cooked, what's added to it, and what's there. And you'll find out all of these things as you go through time. Now again, if you decide to have a meal at McDonald's or Burger King or whatever it is, you just put it in the app and you'll know that, okay, I got 100 grams worth, 300, 400 calories, depending on the place, right? So, again, it's key to understand ratios. Ratios will happen when you start doing the app. And what I used to do once I figured out this whole damn ratio thing is I started putting 100 grams and checking what it is. And I started to realize those things. And obviously, I mean, you look at it from a 100-gram perspective, it was the only way that I was able to find consistency between all of the crap that you see, because you know the food labels, some of them say 100 grams, but some of them say a serving, and that serving is only 30 grams. So I would always go back to 100 grams and say, okay, what am I getting here in terms of calories, right? If I have doubt, put it into the app, check what is 100 calories, right? And then you also have to see what is 100 grams, right? So 100 grams of Cheetos is a hell of a lot of Cheetos. So then you have to think to yourself, okay, if I have a bowl of Cheetos versus having, you know, 100 grams of cheese, it's probably an easier snack to deal with in terms of calories. So all of those things will start to click eventually. Bread is another example where, you know, bread was demonized for a while. You know, I mean, bread is the worst thing. You should never eat bread and all this stuff. Listen, you know, unless you have allergies or you have issues or whatever it is, then you should be just budgeting for those pieces of bread that you're having during the day. And if that's something that you really like, and I know people that love bread, I'm a person that loves rice, you shouldn't do without it in your diet. So yeah, I mean, I think um, that's a simple one. Biscuits are the same. I'm not a huge biscuit person, but there's people that are. I mean, again, everything can be put into your diet and you can use it the way you want. Um, yeah, this is an interesting one. When I talk to people, when you see the people that are dealing with clients and the people that we did the test on, alcohol is a big discussion point because there is a certain degree of binge drinking. There is also a certain degree of um, they don't want it to be part of their calories, right? And the main thing is you need to track it. Um, I'm not saying that you should stop drinking. I mean, I admire people like Jeff Cavalier with the Athlete X program. He doesn't drink. He doesn't have cheat meals, whatever. Listen, when I lost most of my body fat, I was drinking one bottle of wine per night. It's something that I wanted, something that I liked. I used to sit out on my porch and have a bottle of wine, but it was taken into my calories. I knew that it was like 300, 400 calories that I was foregoing from my daily intake to have that bottle of wine or half a bottle of wine or whatever it was, right? Now, these are just examples again from online that you can pick up on. The app has all of them as well, and you can see that you can read online, and I'll tell you the simple and the skinny on all of that stuff. You know, people look online and say, okay, what's the best for dieting in terms of drinks? It's very simple. If you drink pure spirits, that's going to be the lowest calories for sure. If you can drink a whiskey on the rocks, if you can drink vodka on the rocks, gin on the rocks, that's what's going to be the lowest calories. Now, the next best thing is very simple. If you mix them with a 0-calorie mixer, so then it's going to be the same as well. And that's going to give you more, let's say, I don't know, bang for your buck, or get you more drunk because it's stronger alcohol, right? So I mean, again, these are the different things that you have to look at, and you have to budget for them. I mean, obviously, very sugary drinks are going to be the worst. And pina colada is obviously a disaster because it's sugary, fatty, and everything else. Again, other examples online. I mean, again, you can find these all online. You just do a simple Google search, calories and alcohol. You'll find all of these, and you can do it in the app as well. But I like to go through these just to get an understanding, because when you go to a place, you don't want to be sitting in front of your friends or family and saying, okay, you know what? Let me just look that up on MyNet Diary and check what it is. You actually just want to turn around and know, okay, fine. If I have this, pint of cider or lager, it's going to be X amount, right? And again, it's just about turning around and budgeting it. If you budget it in to your caloric intake, it's really your choice. I mean, if you're choosing to have a crazy night, that's what's going to happen. What I suggest, I mean, because again, we get into kind of behaviors and what you do, but I mean, if you can have a spare on the rocks, great. If you can have it with a 0-calorie mixer, also good. If you can turn around and I mean, you see here, I mean, now gin and tonics have taken off worldwide, and Fever Tree is trying to get in on it by saying, they have low-calorie mixers. I've tried them. They're personally not my thing. They taste super weird. But I have to admit, it's not an easy task. When you go to a bar, there's nobody that's going to turn around and say to you, do you want a diet 7-Up or a 7-Up free plus vodka, huh? So this is not the easy part. That's why, drinking at home, drinking at a friend's place, bringing your mixers, bringing your alcohol probably will help you versus going to a bar and trying to get them to give you that stuff, right? And it doesn't help that also bars turn around and they give pretty interesting names. I mean, so I was in a bar the other day and I said to him, listen, can I just have a, diet, I think it was a diet Sprite or Sprite Light or whatever, and vodka. And the guy said, yeah, yeah, but we have a drink that's, like low on calories. It's called Skinny Bitch. And I was like, that's great because you turn around and you make people feel even worse for trying to actually keep their calories down. So I mean, again, it's the tip is that it's easier at friends' houses, it's easier at your house or going over to people's places. At bars, depending where you are in the world, probably New York, Miami, London, they might have stuff, but most places don't. You'll be lucky if you get a Red Bull sugar-free, which that's my go-to drink, with vodka. But let's see. So, what about juice? So, I think this is a very controversial subject. It causes me quite a few heated discussions with my wife um, because I personally believe that juice is very bad for you because it just turns around and just extracts sugar and water directly from the fruit. If you look at 100 ml of Coca-Cola, it's actually more calories to be drinking juice. And again, it's just a product of deceptive marketing where we start to believe that juice is good for us, juicing is good for us. So I don't care if you have a juice machine at home. I had one 15 years ago as well, and I thought it was good for me. It actually made me worse. And yeah, I think, look, the data is against it. There's no doubt, bottom line, this stuff is just sugar and water. There's a bit of vitamins, there might be some nutrients, but if you turn around and you extract sugar and water out of a fruit, you're going to get sugar and water. So you might as well turn around and have a Coke, budget for that. I'm personally not an advocate of juice. I think it's unfortunate because people actually believe that it's a great breakfast to have freshly squeezed orange juice. And it's absolutely not, because you're better off having a good breakfast and using those calories for something else. Okay? I mean, this is something I also found online. I mean, so fruit juice versus sugary soda, both are low in fiber, sources of sugar, and liquid calories. When consumed in large amounts, both have been linked to increased risk of obesity, illness such as type 2 diabetes, and heart disease. However, unlike sugary sodas, fruit juice contains a variety of minerals and beneficial plant compounds that protect you from disease. I think you can either take a supplement rather than that. And you know what? The way I see it, if you really like fruit, just eat the whole damn fruit. I mean, look at this example here. Same number of calories, but it's 5 oranges. I mean, I go through a day, like depending on the season, when there's lots of nice oranges to have. I can have 10 or 15 oranges, and I enjoy it because I know that it's full of fiber, it's full of stuff. My digestive tract feels great. I feel good. So I mean, why do you need to turn around and suck the sugar and water out, and then try to fool yourself into thinking that you're actually doing anything but like taking a glass of water and pouring tablespoons of sugar into it? So that's my 2 cents on this one. Now, important point. All of this tracking actually takes some effort. And like I told you in the beginning, if you master this, you master your universe. That's for sure. Now, one thing that's very important, it's hard to measure the stuff. Over time, it will become easier for you. And you need to have a bit of trial and error. Simply invest in a digital food scale, available on Amazon. I have one for $10 or $15. I use it recently. I started using it again because I'm trying to gain weight. Just invest in one of these. If you have those multi-food processors like a Moulinex or a Thermomix, they actually have a weight scale built into them. You just put the plate at the top, measure it. Just measure your foods, because that will give you a better idea. Even till today, I discover new things. I was telling you that I love eating rice, for example. The other day, it was my favorite meal, chicken and rice. And I took the rice, I took the rice, I put it onto the weight scale, measured out what's 200 grams of rice, and I was shocked at the portion. It was much bigger than I expected. So, I mean, just measure it out, and I promise you, if you are methodical about doing this, you will be impressed with the results. I mean, in other videos, I'll actually show you my results. And there was times, I was just like, yeah, but I can't eat this much food. I mean, there's so much food. I'm no doubt gonna gain weight. I didn't gain weight. I lost weight. I lost body fat. Um, so you will not track forever. That I can tell you. I mean, I recently started counting again. It's only because I'm now trying to actually gain weight. So I want to see how far I need to go. I've actually stopped tracking for a couple of years, to tell you the truth, because I actually know the portion size, I know the weights, I know all of those things, right? So I think do it now, have it very painful right now, be obsessive about it, have your friends get annoyed by you. People used to make fun of me. I mean, people used to be like, oh yeah, now he's measuring the food again. Oh, now he has to put it into his app. All of those people were actually overweight, some of them obese. They started doing the same method as me. They eventually started to lose weight. And now they believe in the program. So, I mean, it's just a science-based approach. You would not do the same thing if you were managing your family's budget. So imagine you were managing your finances by finger in the wind and, I'll estimate what we're going to save this month, I don't think any business could run like that. And you have to be the same way when it comes to your body. And this also really protects you from the marketing BS that you see out there. There's so much that's being thrown out there, and even I found it shocking. I was watching Joe Rogan with Elon Musk on a podcast, and it was shocking to me that even Joe Rogan, who sees a lot of people, and Elon Musk, probably one of the smartest people on earth, had no idea when it came to nutrition and dieting. They had no idea on how to lose weight. Okay? And they just saw food as a guilty pleasure. It's not a guilty pleasure. If you budget for it, it's just a pleasure. So ideally, you reach that point where calories in are lower than calories out. And we'll explain in other episodes what you need to do about that. But again, I go back to this point. Please, guys, this is the area you need to master. All the other stuff, activity, this, that, the other, you can, let's say, slack off. But if you do this so well, you're not even going to need anybody to tell you how to do the rest of your what you want to do for the rest of your life. Why do you think bodybuilders are able to gain weight, lose body fat, come into the shows? I mean, recently I saw Ronnie Coleman on a podcast. He was saying he was down to 0.3 body fat. Obviously, 0.3 is minus all other organs, because you have organs that have fat. But he was down to 0.3 body fat. Off season, he was 3% body fat. I mean, that's insane. So they're able to do it because it's a science-based approach. And that's what their nutritionists do. I mean, I'm telling you, we research the hell out of this area. The guys in bodybuilding have it down to a science. Now, if you take that point out and say, okay, I use this thing, which is, caloric deficit, controlling my body's intake, and supplement that with healthy foods, nutrients dense, lower calorie options, it's unstoppable the possibilities you're going to have. Because disease, whether people like it or not, has nothing to do with what people are telling you in the food industry. I'll give you an example. I was recently also watching Jordan Peterson, the professor from Canada that's super controversial. Okay, he went on the carnivore diet. Okay, because he has a lot of autoimmune diseases, and we've been told for years now that if you eat red meats, you have a higher risk profile. Your blood work will show that you're going to have more cholesterol, LDLs, all of this stuff. He just did his blood work and he posted it on Twitter. He doesn't have any of that. So I think the main thing is what's proven. If you're overweight, you're obese, you're going to have diseases. That's for sure. So you might as well shed that weight, and this is the way to do it. And again, I'm telling you, you can believe me or not, every single diet is trying to do the same thing. They're trying to make sure that the calories in are lower than the calories out, even intermittent fasting. Okay? And this is just another example of tracking. So if you look at tracking, what you'll be able to eventually do, and I like this example, I found it online, is turning around and actually adjusting your caloric intake based on the situation you're in. I mean, this one is they're talking about the lockdown and the fact that you don't move around a lot, gyms were closed, and here you can actually adjust based on your exercise activity level. At the same time, you can adjust the food and say, I mean, I personally, when the lockdown happened, was pretty extreme at the time for me, I turned around and I cut down my calories big time, till I found a way to work out at home, to get my steps in around the house and things like that. And I was able to adjust, and that's what you want to be able to do over time, whether you're traveling, whether there's a situation like what the lockdown that happened, or you're over Christmas or holidays with family and friends and things like that. So you're able to adjust the different variables to make sure that you stay on track to continue to burn fat. So now let's get down to the interesting part. Now, every single section, you'll see what it relates to. The previous section, we were talking about, diet basics. It's mainly for newbies, but there's a lot of stuff there for advanced and pros. The nutrition hacks is basically applicable to everybody, because as you track, you start to understand a little bit about how you can get shortcuts to lower your intake, find better food choices, enjoy the foods you like, or replacements of those foods, right? So, I mean, the first thing is I want to just kill some myths straight up. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you hear online and through YouTube or Instagram, or even sometimes you hear it from our family. Carbs are bad for you, and I addressed that earlier. I mean, they're higher at nighttime. They're not higher at nighttime. They're exactly the same number of calories whether you eat them at nighttime or you eat them in the morning. That doesn't make a difference. Some people say to you, don't eat late at night. If you eat late at night, that will just turn directly into fat because you're going to go to sleep. That's not true either, because we explained earlier that your body is constantly burning calories even while you're sleeping, even while you're resting, right? The other point is that, anything where you hear about apple cider vinegar. I mean, I've seen so many things about this apple cider vinegar. I don't know why it's taken so much of people's mind space of saying, apple cider vinegar is some sort of a miracle, cure. It's not. It's simply a certain type of vinegar. Okay. The other one that I find a lot of people talk about is nuts are super healthy, so I can eat as much as I want. And I had a close friend that was like that, and we would meet at the bar, and then you sit at the bar, and I was one of those people as well. You start munching on the nuts, not thinking about the hygiene of those nuts specifically, but you start eating from the bowl of nuts that are in front of you. Nuts are hypercaloric. They're one of the only things naturally occurring that 100 grams is 400 to 600 calories. Peanuts are 600 calories per 100 grams. So you can sit down at that bar and you've budgeted for your beer, or you've budgeted for your glass of wine or your whiskey. Those nuts are going to be a crazy amount of calories that you take in. And again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have nuts. You should have nuts. However, those things need to be budgeted and you need to be very careful with them. Now, the other thing is, and I addressed this earlier, many people talk about cheat days. There is no cheat day. It's a cheat meal. You should budget for it. If you do a cheat day, in most cases, it will impact your results. You should look at a nice meal that you're going to turn around and have, and you're going to enjoy that meal, enjoy what you've either been craving or you always wanted to eat. For example, I have 1 day per week where I turn around and I either go to Five Guys or Parker's or any of these places. I have my burgers, my fries, everything, and I really enjoy it, and that's it, right? So I mean, the next thing that you need to understand, and we sort of addressed it in certain discussions earlier, is there's foods that are dense in calories. So I mean, if you look at nuts, I said peanuts, there's 600 calories per 100 grams. They're huge. Granola, especially the ones that you buy, the Kellogg's ones, the ones that are supermarket shelf, it seems like a healthy food. I love granola with chocolate chip. It's hypercaloric. It's very high in calories, so you need to be careful with those foods. And those foods have also solutions. For example, I'll talk in another episode how you can make homemade granola. We make it in our household. It's actually my wife that came up with the recipe, and it's much lower in calories and it tastes even better than the ones that you'll buy in the supermarket. Now, I've told you why it's important. At the same time, why is it important for food companies? If you watch, I think it was a couple of episodes, there was 2 episodes with Joe Rogan where he had two guys, one guy called Naveed something, and they were talking the fact that food companies actually have scientists, behavioral psychologists working on their products. They know for sure if a food is hypercaloric that you're going to get addicted to it, because your brain gratifies you when the food is hypercaloric. It doesn't just gratify you for sugar. It gratifies you for something that's very high in fat, high in calories, because that's not a normal thing that the human body finds in nature. So when it does find that, you actually get a boost of endorphins, your body rewards you in terms of feeling of pleasure, but obviously these days with Instagram and looking at other people that are in shape, it's short-lived, okay? The same thing when it comes to nuts. Yeah, again, I love nuts. I have a handful of almonds throughout the day when I'm hungry, but I know that it's a handful of nuts. It's going to be it's going to be 100 calories. Okay. I wanted to take this example. I found this also online. I think it's a really cool one, which kind of explains to you about Starbucks. Okay, and I think this is a perfect example, and I'll talk about the why later. But you can see here those fantastic coffees. If you go to any business district, you'll see people going down and getting their mocha chocolate latte and their caramel frappuccino, and then coming up to their office, right? Those things are packed with calories, packed with fat, packed with sugar. And the alternative, I mean, I have, a frappe or whatever you want to call it, frappuccino, whatever the hell it's called. I have it at home. I make it myself, and it's a very simple thing. It's between 35 to 136 calories depending on your choices, right? And I think that's completely crazy, right? Because in the end, all you have to do, coffee has 0 calories, okay? Milk, depending on which one you choose, again, I don't like whole fat milk. Depending on which one you choose, it's going to be between 35 to 136 calories. And then 0 calorie sweeteners. Now again, these sweeteners, I don't think stevia or monk fruit are part of it, but most sweeteners today have gotten a very bad rap, where people have said, yeah, but they're worse than sugar, they cause health problems. Now, again, none of this is scientifically substantiated. My personal point of view, I think that this is somehow instigated by the sugar companies because they're notorious for doing stuff like that. fine. If you don't want to go for artificial sweeteners, stevia is 100% natural. It comes from a plant. Monk fruit, we use it a lot because one of our kids cannot have sugar. It works perfectly. It's a little bit expensive, to tell you the truth, but it works perfectly because you put exactly the same amount, and that comes from a fruit. So if you put, baking or whatever, or coffee, and then get yourself a frappe maker. You just turn around and you make this at home, add a bit of ice, and you have the same drink. Now, some people are going to turn around and say to me, no, but it's different. This is not like the Starbucks one. Well, fine. If you want the Starbucks one, you can turn around and go get some 0 calories syrups that will add 20 calories for 2 tablespoons. You can add the whipped cream. I'm not a whipped cream type of person, but you can add whipped cream. That will add another 15 to 30 calories depending on how much you put and which type of whipped cream you use. So, I mean, even if you look at all of those, if I just compare, 460 calories versus 200 or 150 to 200 calories that you would actually put into this drink, it's a substantial difference, and I know it breaks your many people's coffee ritual of going in the morning and going to Starbucks and feeling cute at the counter getting their frappuccino. But if you insist on keeping the ritual, you probably should go for a cafe latte or a cappuccino, and a cold variant of it or a hot variant of it, rather than going for those crazy drinks. And again, I recognize in certain parts of the world, it's a lot of people consume those hypercaloric drinks a lot more, and I've seen it more in areas, developing countries where people are quite excited about Starbucks and they don't actually know what's in the content of it, right? The next point is, okay, how do you stay full? I told you guys about fruit. When I found out that fruit is so low on calories, vegetables, I prefer fruits over vegetables. I'm still not a huge vegetable guy. That's what I use throughout the day. So, my fridge is full of the fruits I love, which are mandarins, oranges, berries, and I just have those. I told you before, I have a handful of nuts and seeds. I think everybody knows this huge trend that came out of Pokeballs. I love them as well because you can go to the place, you can get most of the food groups, and they weigh everything for you. So I think this is an important point. I mean, if you want to stay full for longer, you want to be able to snack and enjoy those snacks, and also it's pretty damn healthy for your body. Try to use fruits and vegetables. Find out the ones you like, turn around and prepare them, have them on tap during the day. Because in the end, for example, I love tangerines and mandarins. I always have them ready. So instead of going and having a piece of chocolate or potato chips or whatever, that's what I will have. And you get full on them, you feel good, and you're good to go. Okay? Sugar alternatives, I mentioned that before. I personally use Canadrel and Sweet and Low. I also use monk fruits from time to time. I don't like stevia because there's something in the taste that bothers me. They're now experimenting with slow cooked stevia, which apparently has a different taste. But again, there's a lot of people that like it. Now, there's a lot of studies about stevia, and recently Dr. Rhonda, who also has a podcast, turned around and talked about the fact that the stevia increases insulin sensitivity, which is also good news. So I think there's natural ones, there's artificial ones. It depends what you want to choose. I think another thing is, I had a sweet tooth before I started cutting body fat. I think one of the things that really helped was the fact that I really like ice cream. And for those of you that live in countries where they have Halo Top is an amazing, amazing thing because so they have slow cooked stevia in there. It's 1/3 of the calories. So you can enjoy having ice cream every night, and it's just great. I mean, um, I basically for a couple of years was only having ice cream every day for dessert before I go to bed. So it's a great way to sort of indulge, enjoy. I know they're getting a lot of negative press by the die-hard ice cream people, but listen, you can be a die-hard ice cream person and you can be obese. That's fine. But I think a tub of ice cream that's almost 1,000 calories is also a little bit criminal as well. So, I mean, just to put that into context, that pint of ice cream from Ben and Jerry's is equivalent to about 3 Big Macs. So it's pretty intense on your body. Another one you might have heard anecdotally, and it works. It works better with some people than others. But basically, when you do get a sugar craving, sweet tooth, whatever, if you eat a pickle, and I did this for a while as well, because when I started getting onto this, nutritional track, I turned around and I was used to having dessert every day. I was used to having something sweet after every single meal. So what I used to do is I heard about this, I tried it, and it works because it actually tricks your body with that sweet tooth craving or that sweet craving. When you give it something very sour, it somehow makes that craving go away. I think it's super cool. If it works for you, great. And you can munch on these, pickles, gherkins, whatever the hell you want, and it gets it out of your system. For cheese lovers, I think this is not an easy one. It's not as bad as nuts, but it's pretty high. Um, I lived in Europe for a while, so I mean, there's a lot about the Swiss Gruyere cheese, but it's depending on which type you use, it's super hypercaloric as well. There's even versions that go up to 500, 600 calories per 100 grams. So I think the main thing is, and again, it's not going to taste the same, but if you love cheese and all types of cheeses, cottage cheese is the best one. 100 grams is 98 calories. It's fucking great. Um, if you want something a little bit higher, is feta cheese about 260, 280. Mozzarella is also the same. So I mean, you can see these are different options that get you away from the 400 mark, where you can actually enjoy these cheeses. For example, when we make homemade pizza here, we use feta and mozzarella most of the time. So fresh mozzarella, it's great on pizza, but it's definitely lower calories than putting the grated cheddar all over your pizza. Here's just something also I found online, ranking top to bottom, same thing. You have cottage cheese, cashew cheese, which I'm sure I would never want to eat. Feta cheese, mozzarella, camembert, halloumi, brie. So you can basically, see these rankings online, and then you can adapt accordingly. If you say no, I want to eat Parmesan red Leicester, you can. It's just you get more when you change your choices, right? And yeah, so I mean, these are the same thing when it comes to meats. For example, and I won't go through all of them, but people love bacon. They love their rashers and eggs and whatever. Instead of having bacon rashers, you can have medallions. Instead of having ribeye, you can have a filet steak or tenderloin or whatever it is. Instead of having chicken thighs, which I don't know why people would like, you can have chicken breast. And these are just different examples of, again, just search them online. You'll find these. I mean, they're interesting. I found when I looked into these things, I was already into these choices. I'm not a huge proponent of changing beef with turkey mince. I don't find turkey mince to be tasty. Ribeye versus filet steak, I would anyways always eat a filet steak instead of a ribeye. So, and the same thing with chicken thighs. I don't like the fattiness in chicken thighs versus I prefer chicken breast. So Then, I mean, this brings us to the whole protein story. You hear a lot of stuff. You say, oh, yeah, protein is, miracle. It does this, it does that. Because you have to remember, the industry went through so many different fads. Then the protein was, the solution. It improves your memory. So, again, all of this stuff, I don't even know if they're substantiated. I'm sure they're not. Uh, you know, promotes a positive mood and things like that. What I can simply tell you, all of the research that we've done, all of the different studies that we looked at that were randomized controlled trials and things like that when it came to this subject is very simple. Okay? The simple thing is, and it goes back to what I said before, is there is calories burnt by your body when you digest. And what protein does, even though also vegetables do it, it causes higher thermogenesis or higher burn of calories by consuming them. So, for example, if you digest whatever type of protein, it's 25 to 35% of the calories in it. So that's an upside of protein. I think the rest of the benefits of protein, I don't want to even speculate on those. I think protein is great. It builds muscle. It turns around and it causes you to burn more calories. It also keeps you fuller longer. So protein and fiber, you stay full for a longer period of time. So enjoy it. That's it. So protein shakes. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of companies like Herbalife, like Weight Watchers that will tell you, oh yeah, you take a meal replacement, blah, blah, blah. Look, my personal point of view, I struggled with protein shakes. I did bodybuilding 20 years ago. I have a very bad reaction to all of those supplements. It's not pleasant, let's just put it that way. I only realized recently because, talking to a lot of bodybuilders that had similar gastrointestinal problems, is that, hydrolyzed whey actually is something that I can take. I think that it's a great way to turn around and either have it as a snack. If you want to choose to have it as a meal replacement, you can. But I would suggest always, and this is again from going through all of the data that's out there, going and seeing what people have results with, go for the bodybuilding products like this one. This is the one I use. It's ISO Whey 100. I learned it from a couple of bodybuilders. It's hydrolyzed whey. It's about 200 calories. I mix it literally with ice, 2 cups of ice and 1 cup of water, and I know it's 200 calories. And it's perfect. It increases my protein intake for the day. I sometimes use it. So, for example, when I would have a day in the office where you have one of those crazy lunches where people want to pig out on burgers and pizza and whatever the hell it is, I would come home, I would feel so full, I don't feel like having a normal meal, I would have this. And I know it's 200 calories, I put it into the app and I'm done. Is it, like people make it out to be? And again, it's not this Weight Watchers meal replacement kind of Herbalife stuff. It is just what it is. It's a protein shake. Go for a bodybuilding product or a fitness product. Don't go for those. This is a meal replacement because all of those products, and personally I stay away from protein bars because protein bars, even the bodybuilding ones, fitness ones, are laced with crap. I mean, they're full of sugar, they're full of corn syrup, they're full of stuff that you don't want to be ingesting. This is simple, it's pure protein. I actually like it because it feels like I'm having a milkshake, and this gourmet chocolate flavor is super nice, if you like chocolate, that is. So, yeah, that's another way that you can, this is to help you with time. I know people are busy. I worked in a high pressure job for a very long time. I didn't have time, so this was a great way for me to grab breakfast, lunch, or dinner. The other one is soup. I used this for a while as well. This was a way, for me to keep down the calories. It's great because it's a very high volume food. You can check it out in the app. It weighs a lot, it's a lot of ml, but it naturally is pretty low on calories. The way I was making it was simply, it was vegetable broth, potatoes, carrots, a little bit of rice, a little bit of noodles sometimes. Um, and recently I started adding chicken to it when I wanted to up my protein, right? So I think it's a great way if you're really struggling with staying full. It's also a great way to stay hydrated because you drink quite a lot of volume of it. I found it useful. Many people mentioned it to us as well. This is not the soup diet, which got some fame and fortune for a period in time. It's just you can use this for a meal or for a snack or whatever it is as something that could probably keep the calories down. It is beneficial because it has vegetables in it. Frankly, for me, it's the only way that I can eat vegetables. Usually, any other form I can't. So we get back to the refined and extracted. So I think this is an important point. And again, I've told you from the beginning, this is unrestricted. It's your choice what you want to do. You can dig into these things and go to town on these different type of nutrients and the different types of food. But the main thing is, I mean, I personally used to think that olive oil was super healthy, and I think it's been marketed very well by olive oil producing countries like Greece, Lebanon, and Morocco and whoever. And then everybody's like, oh yeah, olive oil, and then they put it on top of their food, they put it on top of their salad. And guys, one teaspoon is 40 calories. It is super hypercaloric because you're extracting from the olive the fats into an oil. It's the same thing when it comes to sugar. You're extracting that sugar without the actual fruit itself, or the corn, or the vegetable, or whatever it is. I personally try to stay away from this stuff. It's your choice if you do, but know that the calories add up. My suggestion is, you want the benefits of olives, don't have olive oil. Have the whole damn olive. Look at this example again. It's pretty simple. 100 grams of olives that you will enjoy eating before your dinner or at a bar or having a couple of drinks with a friend. 100 grams is 115 calories. 100 grams of olive oil is 884 calories. Okay, so it is super intense. I don't put it on anything anymore. I don't even turn around and dip my bread in in olive oil like they would ask you to do in the Olive Garden or places in Italy. It doesn't make any sense. It's something that you should eat the whole food, and the whole food is actually an olive. You want to eat it with bread, just stuff it in between the bread and eat it, guys. Drinking water. So here's another one. Frankly, a lot of very valid things. I mean, I can tell you something for sure. No matter which group we actually discussed with that has results, whether it was fitness champions, whether it was bodybuilders, whether it was these fitness models, whatever, CrossFit, water was such an essential part of what they do. And again, I mean, it might not help you digest, but this is one of the things that actually accelerates everything else. Okay, we're 80% water, it's the most important thing for life, we know all of that. But this consuming, let's say, the right amount of water is actually makes a huge difference. I mean, I personally find it difficult. My wife, for example, doesn't drink any water, which was horrible. But you need to drink lots of water. First of all, what it does, it removes water retention. It's great because you start to already get progress and feel motivated about what you're doing. I have a simple rule: is I drink until the point that, with all due respect, my pee is white. your pee is yellow and a dark color, it means you're not drinking enough. Okay? You keep drinking, drinking, drinking. Now that's not easy to do. So I like cold water. I add ice to it. I actually flavor my water. There's thousands of these online. You can buy these from Amazon. There's stuff that's natural with stevia, that stir one. I personally like the Hawaiian punch. I don't care that it's not naturally flavored. Personally, for me, the benefits of having water versus the artificial sweeteners, I would rather go for that. Crystal Light is also a good one. And they have all kinds of them. They're all 0 calories, all sweetened, whatever, whatever. But this is a great way to turn around and get your water in. You stay full for longer. You get super hydrated. I don't know what it means that this stir one is kosher friendly, but keto friendly as well. But you see, even such a small startup is using all the terminology to get people to buy their product. But I think, for me personally, I see that the benefits outweigh the potential negative rumors you hear about artificial sweeteners. You can also do it yourself. Turn around and put the sweetener you like and a bit of lemon juice. Some people and I used to do this as well, just put lemon and water. There's thousands of ways, but just get so much water into your diet and into your intake per day that you start to actually flush out what's going on. It helps you with the fat metabolism. It helps you get rid of impurities in the body. It also helps get rid of water retention. So yeah, I think it's very interesting when you do it. Another thing is that be very careful with the food labels. This was an example that I came across while I was traveling in Europe. Look at this one. You have vegetable chips, definitely look like they're healthier, different packaging. Then you have these intense salt and vinegar, Terrell's, hand-cooked English chips. I love those. But when you look at the calories, in fact, it's the one with the higher calories is actually the one you would expect to be healthier, right? So this is where you just need to be super careful. And it goes back to what I told you before. Foods need to be modified to be more palatable, need to be hypercaloric so that you keep buying them. That's why they do it. If the foods taste horrible, you're not going to buy. Okay? So that's why your calories go up. So I think the other thing is you're going to be exposed to all kinds of marketing, and you already are. Fruit juice, vitamin water, veggie chips, whole grain Pop-Tart, which I don't even know why anybody would eat a Pop-Tart. But anyways, organic, gluten-free. Forget about all that. That's just noise. Okay? Just turn around and focus on calories per 100 gram. I find that to be the single moment of truth when dealing with products. You will realize when you see dried banana chips that the calories per 100 gram are so crazy that you would be like, this thing cannot be healthy. Okay? And so just focus on that for now. Later on, you can start looking at, nutrients, all of this stuff. But now, that is your kind of North Star, your guiding principle to turn around and understand those things. Anything that's trying to say to you 100% juice or whatever, probably not even good for you, because juice is just sugar and water, right? So just to summarize it for you guys, focus on your daily and weekly budget. Master tracking from now so you free yourselves up for later. That you can stop tracking, or when you're out with friends and going out for dinner and things like that. Use the app as much as possible. Get yourself a small weight scale to weigh the food and the portions. Learn the ratios. I find it interesting to go online and just search this stuff, and always check the 100 grams calories. Focus on calories at this stage. There'll be other videos podcasts that we're talking about macronutrients, nutrient density, all of this stuff. Forget about that for now. Focus on calories. That's what you need to crack right now. So First of all, thanks for listening. I really do appreciate it. Please post your comments, your feedback as much as possible. We're trying to make this as user-friendly as possible. We're trying to get as much feedback, especially if you're a premium member. Tell us what subjects you want to hear about. Tell us what you're struggling with so that we can actually turn around, get back to you, put up another podcast and tell you, what we found in the different areas that you might be struggling with. The next section that you should be going into as a newbie is activity basics. This is the next, let's say, most important thing, but this section was literally the most important. You can start doing it from today. You shouldn't wait. Go ahead and do it. Start tracking. Activity can come later. You can start exercising later. You can start doing whatever later. Start with this part. Start with controlling your calories. Start getting yourself into calorie deficit. That's the first step into taking control of your life. I hope you've enjoyed this. Take care and thanks again.